It's made pretty clear in the show Murder Mountain that working among the Humboldt County marijuana farms located throughout the county can come at a dangerous cost. An average of 717 people per 100,000 go missing in Humboldt County every year, giving it the highest per capita missing persons rate in the entire state. By contrast, per 100,000, California sees 384 missing persons cases on an annual basis. Humboldt County's number of missing people, it's almost double the state norm. The huge figures have earned Humboldt County the nickname the Black Hole. They've even spawned unsubstantiated rumors about a possible serial killer roaming the county. The sparsely populated Humboldt County is known for its rugged mountainous terrain, its breathtaking coastline, and its vast expanses of coastal redwood forests. Humboldt has also unfortunately become known for its strange unsolved vanishings, beginning in the 1990s. 20-year-old Jennifer Wilmer, who in 1992 decided to leave her life behind in New York City, got a job in neighboring Trinity County, part of the Emerald Triangle. Humboldt, Mendocino, and Trinity County are all right beside each other. They're known as the Emerald Triangle because those three counties make a hell of a lot of weed. On September 13th, 1993, Wilmer allegedly went off to retrieve a ticket from a local travel agency in order to make a visit to family in New York. She never arrived, and the ticket was never claimed. When the woman did not return home that evening, police launched an investigation and found that there were witnesses who claimed to have seen the missing woman hitchhiking, and this was the last time anyone would see her. Making things even murkier is that there were conflicting reports that say Wilmer was not out to go to the travel agency, but rather she was on her way to a farm in order to inquire about possible work. Trimmigrants is a word for people who come out to work seasonally on the weed farms in the Emerald Triangle. People come from all across America and even all across the world. However, on these weed farms, they are completely off the grid. In November 1997, 16-year-old Karen Mitchell was walking along in the middle of the day in downtown Eureka when she just disappeared into thin air. An intensive search was immediately launched, with police scouring the town, going door to door and interviewing anyone they could find who had been on the street that day. But no one had any idea of what became of her, and no clues could be found as to where she went. 23-year-old Christine Walters in November of 2008 had abruptly moved to Humboldt County after meeting some people in her native Wisconsin. She was released from hospital after taking a hallucinogenic tea. Seemingly she had joined some kind of hippie cult out in the forests, wearing nothing but pajamas and slippers, and stumbled off, looking to know where the Department of Motor Vehicles was. Although it was the middle of the day and the DMV was less than 1 mile away, Walters never made it there, and she's never been seen again. In 2013, 23-year-old Danielle Bertolini decided to start a new life after the tragic death of her child, and she moved from Bangor, Maine to Humboldt County. In early 2017, Bertolini suddenly vanished without a trace, and it came to light she had hitched a ride near the town of Fortuna with a local named James Jones, who was the last to have seen her and claimed to have dropped her off near her home, adamant that he had nothing to do with her being missing. Jones had actually been an acquaintance of one of the other missing people, Karen Mitchell. On March 9th, 2015, a skull was discovered along the Eel River that turned out to be Bertolini's. Yet no one has been charged with her murder, and no one really knows what happened to her. Strange things do go on in Humboldt County. People move there seasonally, looking to make a lot of money working on a weed farm, and to get away from civilization. However, there are a lot of people there looking to take advantage of some of the more naive people who move there. Sex trafficking, labor trafficking, that's there too. However, the sheriff's office and some researchers claim that the number of missing people, it's a little bit exaggerated. The documentary itself suggests that the isolated nature of Humboldt makes it more attractive to runaways and others hoping to get off the grid, at least temporarily. 90% of the places in the county have no cell service. You truly are isolated when you go there, especially when you go into the middle of the woods to work on farms and other things. A 2018 report notes that while Humboldt does lead the state in reports of missing persons, it's also among the best at finding people who disappear. Many of the adults reported missing aren't gone for long. Of the 313 missing reports filed for adults in 2016, most cases were closed. 230 people returned or were eventually located. 15 were arrested, 8 were declared voluntary missing, 5 were marked withdrawn, 1 was marked unknown, and 51 were classified as other, which includes suspicious circumstances. Part of the difficulty in
I need to get closer. I can't do that yet. Not enough energy. I don't have enough energy. Not enough energy.
Welcome to day 3 of the Night Marathon before Christmas. For those of you just joining us, this is my 5-day marathon where I cover creepy, obscure, and disturbing topics all week until Friday. Today, I wanted to pay homage to one of my favorite psychological horror games of all time, Soma. We're going to run through the notable points in the story, explore the major themes that became evident throughout, and dive into why this game became one of my all-time favorites. Note that there will be spoilers in this, so if you plan on playing this in the near future and don't want major plot points spoiled for you, I'd click away now. If you've already played it, have no plans to play it, or don't care about spoilers, then you're in for quite a ride. With this being said, let's dive in. Soma is absolutely genius in so many ways. In the game, you take the role of a character living in Canada named Simon who was involved in a car crash that caused him brain damage. After this, you're able to assume control of him after he wakes up in his apartment. Immediately, you remember that you have a brain scan appointment with a man named David Munchie, who has informed you that he knows a method to reverse the scale of brain damage with the machine that he created. Everything seems all okay until we actually arrive at his building. Instead of being greeted by a receptionist and people, the place is in shambles and nobody's around. After poking around some, we encounter the back room where David is expecting us. After interacting with him, we then sit in a chair as he hooks a machine up to Simon, and after this we go unconscious. Then we wake up in an extremely lifeless and foreboding area that we come to know as Pathos 2. This marks the beginning of our journey to try to figure out what the hell happened, where we are, and where everyone's at. A very short while after this, Simon acquires a device that allows him to remotely remain in contact with someone named Catherine Chun. She tells him that the year is 2104, that there's no one left on Earth, and to meet her on Site Lambda. After hearing this grim news, Simon ventures through the hellscape to find Catherine and eventually to reach the utopian endgame known as the Ark. But more on that later. What he discovers along the way is nothing short of compelling and entirely disturbing. One simple question serves as a single major theme throughout this game, and I want you to think about it as well. What does it mean to be human? Throughout Simon's journey, he encounters a plethora of mutilated life forms, robots, and humans themselves being kept alive by nothing more than structure gel.
Can I help?
It won't let me die. Nothing is allowed to die.
What happened?
An accident. Fixing the power. I was going to Theta.
Anything I can do?
If you see Masters or Holland, tell them I need help. Okay? Amy needs help.
This gel is a scientific breakthrough that gained popularity during the 100 years that Simon was unconscious. It's intended to merge organic life forms with a digital counterpart to allow the body to heal almost instantaneously. The catch is, since the gel has a digital counterpart, it has to have something controlling it. So what? This entity is known as the WOW, and it was created as the artificial intelligence system of Pathos 2. It not only controls the structure gel, but also all the hostile robots that Simon encounters throughout his trek. The WOW was not always this hostile being, however. It became corrupted through a loophole in logic when the programmers created this thing. It was designed originally to preserve the human race at all costs after a meteor had struck Earth, devastating the surface. This means that even if a human was dying, on their last leg, or nothing more than a near corpse, the WOW would still attempt to keep this human alive no matter what. This is displayed throughout the game in a manner that would absolutely floor you, since this entire situation had imploded on itself, causing this freak accident. Throughout his journey, Simon would encounter humans that were essentially dead, but with a heartbeat due to the WOW keeping them technically alive. It's an absolutely heartbreaking thing to see. As the game progresses, Simon begins to realize the fact that he isn't what he thinks he is, and this was so masterfully done. The first hints come after we complete Site Upsilon. Simon encounters hostile and corrupted robots, and on the brink of ending his life, the roof collapses and water fills the entire area. Much to his surprise, Simon wakes up completely fine, and after looking at his hands, they're not his hands.
What? What the hell? How is this possible? This is insane!
Fast forward quite a bit to a point where Catherine instructs us to switch bodies in order to make use of a power suit, and we're finally able to see our reflection. The Simon that we thought we were this entire time isn't a human at all. But we have full consciousness. We woke up here, we have an entire recollection of our entire lives. What the actual hell is going on? What are we? After this powerful moment, Catherine informs us that the Simon that we thought we were is dead. We are merely a copy that was brought over into this reality, whom had remained dormant for all these years.
What was that?
No, it's just...
Why was it still talking?
It's the same like before.
Catherine, why was he still talking?
That's how it works, you know that.
What do you mean?
You know it's not magic. You were copied. The sleeping Simon in the seat was copied, and now you are here, just like Simon lived on in Toronto.
God damn you, Kath. 2 Simons? There can't be 2 Simons.
What did you think would happen?
That you were gonna take my mind and put it into another body, like a brain transplant.
I'm sorry, it wouldn't work that way.
You realize how messed up this is?
Please, I didn't mean to upset you.
How did you expect me to react to this shit?
Please stop.
You're fucking disgusting. What's gonna happen to him?
He'll sleep for a while, a few days.
And then what? Wake up in this fucking nightmare again? All alone? So cruel.
Well, what do you want me to do with him? Make friends? Let him know that we have to leave him behind when we go into the abyss?
What if he didn't need to wake up?
The fate of the real Simon is hidden in one of the computer terminals, and we're then able to poke around a bit and come to terms with the fact that Simon died shortly after the brain scan.
I need to get closer. I'm out of range. I can't do that yet. That ability isn't ready. I can't do that yet. I can't cross that yet. I can't drink anymore. I need more mana. Not ready yet. Not enough rage. I need more rage. Not enough rage. That ability isn't ready yet. Not ready yet. It's still recharging. Not enough mana. My mana is low. Not enough mana.
On December 23, 2013, a man named Viktor Stribog would launch a channel by the name of Kraina Gruzhabov TV, which translates to Land of Mushrooms TV. On this very same day, the channel will release their pilot episode for a series by the name of Smile Guide. If you're unaware, Smile Guide is an anomalous series that lasted until April of 2017 with 6 entries, being home to our main characters by the name of Agatha, Maggie the Squirrel, Agatha's mother, the Jeansman, and Carolina, among a few others. Back in September of last year, I made an in-depth video explaining what my thoughts were on the series while giving you a summarized walkthrough of the events that played out. I attempted this definitive version mainly because, at the time, I believed the series was at a final conclusion. On August 30th, 2018, the channel would release a video titled, Excerpt from the Program, Where is Agatha? In this, we're presented with what seems like a spin-off episode of Smile Guide, filled with dialogue from another interview with Agatha's mother. Now, it's been quite a while since we've talked about Smile Guide, and your memory on the series might be a little fuzzy. Before we proceed, I'd like to do a quick recap of events and theories that we've already covered. Remember that this will be a super summarized version of what takes place in Mushroom Land, so if you haven't yet seen it and want to get the full experience, go watch the series first, then my explanation, then return so we can get caught up. Links are below. Okay, so if you're still here, let's get going. So the series has a typical format of opening with Agatha, front and center, accompanied by Maggie the squirrel. If we can remember, each of the videos in the series are named bizarrely, carrying a format that just doesn't make sense in writing. While this is so, the titles are generally referenced in each video. For instance, the first episode is titled, How to Apple, and in it, we can see Agatha coring one with a knife. At the end of my segment on this episode, I told you guys to remember 3 notable topics that were presented to us: mushrooms, a uterus, and the cored apple. The second episode was named How to Make from Paper, and featured Agatha simply naming items off that were made of paper before getting into a short spat with Maggie the squirrel. Afterwards, we're presented with multiple bizarre shots, and one of them was of a cow. This was a notable point as well, being that the term cow was also brought up in the description of this video. Jumping forward to Smile Guide 4, we were greeted with yet another bizarre segment where Agatha's mother claims in an interview that she didn't recognize her own daughter due to changes in her behavior. Afterwards, we're presented with a city from Berlin on a map before the video cuts to a segment with Agatha as she opens fan mail. When doing so, she then proceeds to cut her hair off before we're finally introduced to the Jeansmen and Carolina, who appear to torment her. After this, distortions begin to occur before we see Agatha appear to wake up next to a very ominous profile of her mother. However, when she turns around, it appears to be none other than the Jeansman, as he creepily smiles at her. In this episode, we can recall that the notable themes were Agatha's mother not recognizing her, the city from Berlin, and the torment from the Jeansmen. Jumping forth once more to Smile Guide 6, we're greeted with a segment titled, How Your Child. In this, we can see Agatha as she bizarrely cares for a doll named Justine that, according to Agatha, ends up misbehaving. After this, we're then shown a strange moment of dialogue between her, Maggie the squirrel, and the doll. Afterwards, Maggie then tells Agatha to open her eyes to the mushroom light before a small and extremely bizarre segment with Agatha standing in front of a hyper-realistic version of Maggie. At the end of this episode, Agatha appears to be in a garden with Maggie, and after a small bit of dialogue and excessive laughing, Agatha then has flashbacks before the camera pans out, showing almost a prison-like cell that she's trapped in. The series then comes to a close in the bonus episode following this. Agatha is seen in a heaven-like field and gives dialogue about her mother. This is notable because it's a direct shift in tone from the strange and bizarre segments of Smile Guide. The series then closes after this, and the credits proceed to roll, giving the audience the names of the masterminds behind this series. Since the close of everything, not much other than a couple ads and quite a few music tracks have been uploaded to the channel. On August 30th, 2018, however, that would change with a new epilogue-like segment in the same canon as Smile Guide. In this one, we have a distraught mother of Agatha strangely telling us about some oddly mundane activities. It seems that she's in some sort of haze or limbo that she just can't seem to escape. Now, I made the connection in my previous video that the show is either a reference to drugs, to Agatha being raped by the Jeansmen, an all-out atomic war, or that it was total nonsense. Now, if any of these were so, it just wouldn't make sense for Agatha's mother to say the one thing that stood out to me the most. I know that Agatha is somewhere and wants to come back. Interesting. This doesn't seem to line up with her doing drugs. This doesn't even sound like it lines up with her being raped. She is physically gone. So where did you go, Agatha? I want to say something before we proceed further. I definitely do not stand by my theories in my previous KGTV video. They did not age well at all. Going back and rewatching the entire series all the way through after becoming reinvested into it due to this new episode really caused me to have the largest epiphany about this behemoth that I am shocked that I had never noticed before. And it's funny, the entire key to this revelation was during the last episode of the series. Now, if you still by this point haven't seen the series or everything prior to the theories portion in my last video, please go watch it and return when you do. I promise you this will make so much more sense then. Okay, alright. Here is what I think Kraina Grzybow TV is really about. Agatha was sheltered by her mother, as stated in the final video when she says she spooned out her eyes. Agatha never got to do anything. She was always confined to the safety of her own home with her mother. I believe that one night she decided to rebel in spite, exhibiting a greed for something more than the confines of her mundane life. When doing so, she went off with friends and did drugs that ended up killing her. This is referenced in the caption, "Is she breathing? Her eyes are soft." They're saying that she's dead. Anyway, at this point, her soul got thrust into limbo. She's stuck between heaven and hell in Mushroomland. Mushroomland is, far and large, an allegory to purgatory, a Catholic reference to the region between heaven and hell. A very strong point of support in this theory is that in Poland, the primary religion is Catholicism, and purgatory is believed to exist in their teachings. This is where it gets interesting. The series then begins to reference a 14th century literary work by the name of Dante's Divine Comedy. This describes purgatory as a physical place between heaven and hell. In the novel, a Roman poet named Virgil guides Dante through the 7 levels of purgatory. Now, what are these 7 levels an allegory to? The 7 deadly sins. The first terrace is pride, then envy, then wrath, then sloth, then greed, then gluttony, and lastly lust. This area is meant to serve as a test for people whom equally love God and man at the same time. Agatha is figuratively being put through this trial, and throughout the entirety of Smile Guide, we have references and direct examples of Agatha displaying these sins. In Kraina Grzybow TV, Maggie, while referenced in German as devil, is a representation of Virgil, and Agatha is the figurative Dante. In Smile Guide 1, we have her mother explaining that she ended up running away with friends. This is Agatha's exhibition of greed. Further on in the episode, we see her coring an apple. I previously made an inference that this was a reference to her own rape. I no longer believe that this is a direct reference to her being raped. While yes, it could be an allegory in some theories, I really think that this is nothing more than a setup for the scene that follows. Agatha binging on this cored apple, stuffing her face with it. This, in its entirety, is Agatha's first direct on-screen display of a deadly sin, that being gluttony. In Smile Guide 2, we have the mother explaining that Agatha was on the TV. She's shown as missing. However, I believe that it's at this point where she's dead and her mother is in denial. This is when she embarks on a journey to find Agatha, dead or alive. Later on in Smile Guide, we see a reference to Fat Cow combined with imagery of cows in pastures. A quick, very brief moment arrives though where we can see a certain something pop up on screen. The word jealousy, which is a direct synonym of envy. In Smile Guide 4, we have no sins displayed. However, I believe that this is more of a character building episode where we're able to see the Jeansman's tendencies. Either he's taunting her here, or he and Carolina are trapped in purgatory and are at this level in the trials as well. In Smile Guide 5, Agatha begins sleeping. This is a direct reference to yet another deadly sin, being sloth. She's being lazy and has to be poked awake by who we can assume is the Jeansman at this trial as well. Soon after this, we can see Agatha appear to be electrocuted before a different version of her arrives with makeup on, appearing to be a completely different person. It's at this point where she seems boastful and acts almost like the Jeansman, taunting the viewers and laughing. This is her exhibiting the deadly sin of pride. In Smile Guide 6, we see Agatha with a child. After the child is shown to act erratically, Maggie, Agatha, and the baby have a conversation and continuously switch bodies. This ends up resulting in Agatha becoming frustrated, exhibiting anger, a sixth deadly sin. This is where I want to pause for a second and note something. We do not have 7 Smile Guides, we have 6. At this point in the series, Agatha exhibits her 6th deadly sin, and the show takes a total halt before we're shown the words, "The end." We can notice here that she never exhibited lust, did she? This is her in the end game. She has one more chance to reclaim herself as she's at the doorstep of hell itself. At this point, we see the screen go black and every other character in her life and who she's met floats above her. It's at this moment Agatha realizes this, and this, my friends, is when we're shown a glimpse of what her life would become if she commits the last one, being lust. This episode draws to a close with Agatha being trapped in what seems like, quite literally, a physical purgatory. I believe that this is when she has an awakening, a change of heart, an acceptance that the life she's led, the rebellion that she's caused, and the great pain that she's inflicted on her mother out of spite is something inherently terrible, and the final episode, not being Smile Guide, is her reaching out to her mother. She references how she was always sheltered by her, and the allegory is given that she spooned out Agatha's eyes and didn't let her see the world as it is. She was always babied, and her own curiosity led to her demise. This acceptance has ultimately led her to heaven. The grassy fields that she's in at the end are a reference to peace and harmony that it brings, and Agatha is finally able to put her soul to rest. This is where the new episode comes into play. This is her mother's endgame. Think about it. We never got closure for her, did we? Kraina Grozhubov TV isn't back. It was never back at all. It's always been over, ever since those credits rolled, and this is nothing more than an epilogue. In this, she gives dialogue explaining how she's doing nothing in her life.
Welcome back to Nightmind, friends, and welcome, for the first time, to our new residence. I'd like to thank you all immensely for bearing with me over the past, say, month and a half while the work was put in to make this place a reality. I never feel good about taking time away from regular upload patterns to do anything, because I always want to be a consistent presence in your lives. But I knew at the beginning of the year that it was time our community had a proper gathering place. And so, after taking the time to become a self-taught carpenter, interior designer, electrician, and one-monster moving crew, I was able to put together the very first Nightmind office, a perfect place for conducting our new investigations. Oh, I also learned how to break into buildings, but let's not talk about that too much. Some very celebrated old mansions in New England are itching to find out who broke in and stole their wallpaper. Here you'll see, of course, we have our internet access and technology workstation, as well as our document storage, resource materials, and a few odds and ends. You might recognize something on my bookshelf from a very specific time of the year that will be coming up again quite soon. On our right side, we have my new, and by new I mean very old and very fragile, projector screen, as well as some wall-mounted file cabinets. This is where we're going to be conducting our work for any and all case file investigations from now on, unless a case somehow involves a visit to the Dark Arcade. But wait, if only one wall in this room is dedicated to case files, how about the others? Don't worry, I made sure to utilize the space provided in here to suit our needs in the event of sudden happenings and ongoing investigations. On our left, we have the new space for Cat's Eye, with a few mementos of prior Nightmind topics pinned to the sideboards to remind us of lessons learned. And who am I kidding? It's also fun to look at old memories, right? Mugshots are my favorite kind of portrait. As for the back wall, well, that is a little something special we'll get to later. Right now we have business to attend to. I've kept you all waiting long enough to return to our normal activity. It's been entirely too long since we've opened up one of our case files, and to serve as an appropriate ribbon-cutting ceremony for our new gathering space, I decided to pull out the oldest story I currently have on record after the Wyoming incident. In November of 2006, YouTube had reached a point of peak popularity online. In just a year and a half of operation, the website had already pulled enough viewership to gain the attention of Google. YouTube's owners were approached by Google in October of 2006 to negotiate a purchase, which was finalized on November 13th to the price of about $1.65 billion. The YouTube we know of today had just begun. And that's why I find it very satisfying that YouTube's first full interactive horror web series, The Human Pet, began just 4 days later. He is here against his will. A video title that grabs you immediately, with the image of a man tied up, gagged, and laying on a bare mattress in an empty room. It was, again, November of 2006. YouTube was brand
That ability isn't ready yet. I need to get closer